Hey everyone, tonight we're exploring one of history's most profound economic paradoxes, how the vast Inca Empire functioned without a single coin, creating perhaps the most sophisticated moneyless economy the world has ever known. Before we settle in, take a moment to like this if you enjoy these deep historical explorations, and let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. I always find it fascinating how our global community gathers to explore these complex questions together. Now get comfortable, dim those lights. Tonight we're not chasing dramatic conquests or heroic tales. Instead, we're going to examine something much quieter but equally revolutionary: how human labor itself became the primary currency of an empire spanning 2,500 miles of the Andes. Picture, if you will, the profound silence of an Andean morning, where communities awaken not to the clink of coins or the bustle of markets, but to the rhythmic sound of collective labor beginning. In valleys carved between towering peaks, the Inca created an economic system that would have seemed impossible to their contemporaries and perhaps even more so to us today. Here, human energy replaced material currency, reciprocal obligations superseded profit, and the very act of work became sacred. Tonight, we'll explore the Ain-I, the reciprocal labor exchange that formed the philosophical foundation of Inca economic thought. We'll discover how the Mitre system transformed seasonal work into imperial organization, how resources flowed across vast distances without markets, and how social hierarchy integrated seamlessly with economic function. We'll witness the quiet revolution of communities that measured wealth not in gold, but in the strength of their collective bonds and the rhythm of their shared labor. Let's begin our gentle journey into this remarkable civilization, where the sound of traditional tools against stone on earth became the empire's economic heartbeat, and where human hands served as the most precious currency of all. In the thin mountain air of the Andes, where the first light of dawn touches terraced slopes carved into impossibly steep mountainsides, an ancient understanding of human cooperation once governed the daily rhythms of millions of people. Here, in what would become the largest empire in pre-Columbian America, the Inca developed perhaps history's most sophisticated economy without ever minting a single coin or establishing a marketplace where goods changed hands for currency. Instead, they created a system so fundamentally different from our modern understanding of economics that Spanish conquest authors struggled to comprehend how an empire spanning nearly 2,500 miles could function without money. The philosophical foundation of this remarkable system rested on a concept that Quechua-speaking peoples call Ain-I, a word that encompasses far more than simple reciprocity. Ain-I represented a worldview where human energy, rather than material wealth, served as the primary medium of exchange. In this understanding, work itself became sacred, a form of worship that connected individuals to their community, their ancestors, and the natural world that sustained them all. The morning mist rising from terraced fields carried with it not just the moisture that would nourish crops, but the collective breath of a civilization that had discovered how to transform human cooperation into economic abundance. This was not merely an economic system, but a spiritual practice woven into the very fabric of daily existence. When families gathered at sunrise to begin their work in the fields, they were participating in something far more profound than agricultural labor. They were engaging in Ain-I, the reciprocal exchange of energy that bound communities together across generations. The rhythmic sound of traditional tools against stone on earth became the empire's economic heartbeat, a percussion that synchronized human activity with the natural cycles that governed all life in the Andes. The Inca understanding of work differed fundamentally from concepts that would later emerge in monetized economies. Labor was not something to be minimized or avoided, but rather the essential expression of human dignity and social belonging. Through Ain-I, individuals contributed their energy to the collective good, knowing that this energy would return to them in form, both material and spiritual. The careful choreography of agricultural tasks performed in unison created not just economic efficiency, but social harmony as communities moved together through the seasons like a vast, coordinated dance. Spanish chroniclers arriving from a world where economic relationships were mediated by coins and contracts found themselves struggling to describe what they witnessed. Pedro Cz y Leon, one of the most observant early chroniclers, wrote with evident amazement about communities where no one went hungry despite the absence of markets or money. He observed how storage houses, called culo LQs, filled not with gold but with the fruits of collective labor corn, potatoes, quinoa, and textiles, all produced through the coordinated efforts of communities working in harmony with their environment. The spiritual dimension of this economic system cannot be separated from its practical efficiency. In Inca cosmology, work was understood as a form of worship, a way of maintaining a reciprocal relationship between humans and the natural world. The earth, or Pachama, provided the foundation for all life, and human labor was seen as a way of giving back to this nurturing force. This understanding transformed what might otherwise be seen as economic drudgery into meaningful participation in the cosmic order. Modern anthropologists have come to appreciate the sophisticated wisdom embedded in these ancient practices. The ANI system created what economists now recognize as a gift economy, where social relationships and mutual obligations took precedence over individual accumulation. Unlike market economies, where scarcity drives competition, the Inca system was designed to ensure abundance through cooperation. Communities that worked together prospered together, creating a social fabric strong enough to support an empire that stretched from modern-day Ecuador to Chile. The visual harmony of terraced agriculture, still visible today across the Andean landscape, represents both economic achievement and artistic expression. These terraces, carved into mountainsides through countless hours of collective labor, demonstrate how the Inca transformed challenging terrain into productive agricultural zones. Each terrace required careful planning, skilled engineering, and sustained community effort, all coordinated through the principles of ANI. The result was not just increased agricultural production, but a landscape that reflected the aesthetic values of a civilization that saw beauty and function as inseparable. This foundation of reciprocal labor exchange would prove sophisticated enough to support increasingly complex institutional structures, from the empire-wide mitre system to the intricate networks of resource distribution that connected diverse ecological zones across the Andes. The quiet wisdom of ANI, born in small mountain communities, would eventually coordinate the activities of millions of people, creating an economic system whose efficiency and equity would challenge modern assumptions about the relationship between human cooperation and material prosperity. The mitre system emerged from the quiet wisdom of Andean communities like mourning, mist rising from mountain valleys, transforming ancient practices of reciprocal labor into the administrative backbone of the world's largest empire. In the pre-dawn darkness of countless villages scattered across the Inca realm, families would gather their simple tools and prepare for another day of collective work, their participation in this vast labor network as natural and inevitable as the sunrise itself. The word mitre derives from the Quechua concept of turn or rotation, reflecting the system's fundamental principle that all able-bodied members of the empire would take their turn contributing labor to both local community needs and imperial projects. Unlike the harsh taxation systems of other ancient civilizations, where tribute was extracted through force and fear, the mitre evolved organically from deeply rooted Andean traditions of ANI, where communities had always shared labor burdens during planting and construction seasons. Spanish chroniclers arriving centuries later with their understanding of monetary taxation struggled to comprehend how an empire spanning from present-day Ecuador to Chile could function through what appeared to be voluntary work rotations. Pedro Cesi A.D. Leon, writing in the 1552, marveled at the system's efficiency, noting how the Indians worked with such goodwill, but they seemed to be at a festival rather than performing forced labor. This observation reveals the profound cultural difference between European concepts of taxation as burden and the Inca understanding of labor contribution as sacred obligation. The administrative sophistication of the Mitre system rivaled any bureaucracy in the ancient world, yet it operated without written records in the conventional sense. Instead, Quipu masters, skilled specialists who could read and create complex patterns of knotted strings, maintained detailed records of labor obligations, community contributions, and seasonal rotations. These remarkable devices, with their intricate combinations of knots, colors, and string positions, served as three-dimensional databases that tracked the work contributions of millions of people across the empire's diverse geographical regions. Each community's Mitre obligations were carefully calibrated to local conditions and seasonal cycles. Highland communities might contribute labor during the dry season when agricultural work was minimal, while coastal populations participated during different periods that aligned with their fishing and farming schedules. This temporal coordination required extraordinary administrative skill, as officials had to balance the empire's construction and maintenance needs with the natural rhythms of dozens of distinct ecological zones. The rotation system ensured that no individual or community bore an excessive burden while maintaining the continuous flow of labor necessary for imperial projects. Typically, adult males would serve approximately one-third of their time in Mitre obligations, working in cycles that might last several months, followed by periods of return to their home communities. This rhythm created a vast, mobile workforce that could be directed toward road construction, agricultural terracing, or the building of administrative centers, all while maintaining the stability of local communities. Archaeological evidence from sites like Machu Picchu reveals the extraordinary precision with which Mitre labor was organized. The perfectly fitted stone blocks, requiring no mortar, yet remaining stable for centuries, represent not just engineering skill, but also a coordinated effort of thousands of workers whose contributions were meticulously planned and supervised. Each stone was quarried, shaped, and positioned through a complex choreography of human effort that transformed raw mountain granite into architectural poetry. The system's genius lay in its integration of imperial needs with local benefits. While communities contributed labor to grand state projects, they also received the fruits of collective effort through improved infrastructure, expanded agricultural terraces, and enhanced storage facilities. Roads built through Mitre labor connected remote villages to broader trade networks, while irrigation systems expanded agricultural productivity for entire regions. This reciprocal relationship between local contribution and imperial benefit created a sustainable foundation for economic growth that lasted for centuries. Rest houses, or tamboes, dotted the empire's extensive road network at regular intervals, providing shelter and supplies for Mitre workers traveling to fulfill their obligations. These way stations, themselves built through collective labor, created a support system that made long-distance work assignments feasible while maintaining the workers' connection to their home communities. The sight of these simple stone structures, many still standing today, speaks to the careful attention paid to human needs within this vast administrative system. The Mitre system also demonstrated remarkable adaptability to regional variations and local customs. In the Amazon regions, where different skills and resources were available, labor obligations might focus on coca leaf cultivation or the production of tropical goods needed throughout the empire. Coastal communities contributed fish, shells, and maritime products, while highland regions provided agricultural surplus and skilled stone workers. This diversity of contributions created a complex web of interdependence that strengthened the empire's overall resilience. Modern anthropologists have noted how the Midas system embodied principles of sustainable resource management that contemporary societies are only beginning to understand. By rotating labor obligations and integrating work with natural cycles, the system prevented the over-exploitation of both human and environmental resources. Communities maintained their traditional practices and social structures while contributing to imperial projects, creating a model of development that enhanced rather than disrupted local ways of life. The peaceful efficiency of this labor-based economy continues to inspire contemplation about alternative approaches to human organization, where collective effort serves community needs rather than individual accumulation, and where work itself becomes a form of social and spiritual practice rather than mere economic necessity. The rhythm of agricultural seasons formed the very heartbeat of the Inca Empire's economic life, creating a natural cadence that synchronized human labor with the eternal cycles of planting, growth, and harvest across the vast Andean landscape. In the pride and darkness of the Altiplano, communities would gather at the sound of conch shells echoing across terraced mountainsides, their breath visible in the thin mountain air as they prepared for another day of collective work guided by the ancient agricultural calendar that had governed Andean life for countless generations. The Inca had inherited and refined a sophisticated understanding of seasonal labor coordination that allowed them to orchestrate agricultural activities across dramatically different ecological zones, from the humid yungas of the eastern slopes to the arid coastal valleys, each requiring precise timing and specialized knowledge. The agricultural calendar, carefully maintained by priest astronomers who observed the movements of stars and the subtle changes in weather patterns, served as the empire's primary economic planning tool, dictating when communities would plant potatoes at 14,000 feet above sea level while simultaneously coordinating the harvest of maize in the Sacred Valley far below. This seasonal coordination required extraordinary administrative sophistication, as the empire's agricultural specialists had to account for the varying growing seasons across different altitudes and latitudes, ensuring that labor obligations for the Midas system aligned perfectly with local agricultural needs, while still meeting imperial requirements for construction projects and military campaigns. The result was a carefully choreographed dance of human activity that flowed like a river through the year, with workers moving between their home communities and distant imperial projects in harmony with the natural cycles that govern their agricultural homeland. During the planting season, entire communities would move as one organism across the terraced fields, their traditional tools glinting in the morning sun as they worked in long lines that stretched across the mountainsides like living threads, wiggling threads woven into the landscape itself. The sight of hundreds of workers moving in unison, their colorful clothing creating patterns against the brown earth, represented one of the most beautiful expressions of the Inca economic system, where individual effort merged seamlessly with collective purpose guided by the wisdom of seasonal timing. The integration of agricultural and construction activities revealed the genius of Inca economic planning, as major building projects were scheduled during the agricultural off-season when communities could spare workers for imperial construction without compromising food production. The famous stone blocks of Machu Picchu and other imperial sites were quarried, shaped, and fitted during the dry season when agricultural demands were minimal, allowing the empire to pursue ambitious architectural projects while maintaining the agricultural foundation that sustained its population. Festival celebrations marked the successful completion of major agricultural phases, creating moments when economic achievement merged with religious observance and social celebration. These gatherings served multiple functions within the economic system, allowing administrators to assess the success of harvests, plan for the redistribution of resources, and reinforce the social bonds that made collective labor possible. The festivals also provided opportunities to share knowledge about agricultural techniques and seasonal timing, creating a network of information exchange that continuously improved the empire's agricultural productivity. The peaceful rhythm of planting songs and work chants that echoed across the valleys during these seasonal gatherings created a soundtrack for economic activity that was both practical and spiritual, helping workers maintain the steady pace necessary for efficient collective labor while reinforcing the cultural values that made the system sustainable. These ancient melodies, passed down through generations, contained within their verses the accumulated wisdom of Andean agriculture, encoding information about proper timing, technique, and the spiritual significance of working in harmony with natural cycles. Storage facilities gradually filled throughout the agricultural year, their stone chambers designed to preserve different types of crops under the specific conditions required for long-term storage in the challenging Andean environment. The site of these QOLLQs, built into hillsides with sophisticated ventilation systems and moisture control, represented the empire's commitment to managing seasonal abundance and scarcity through careful planning and collective effort rather than market mechanisms. This seasonal coordination extended beyond agriculture to encompass the entire range of economic activities, from the timing of textile production to align with the availability of raw materials, to the scheduling of mining operations and craft production to complement rather than compete with agricultural labor needs. The result was an economic system that breathed with the natural rhythms of the Andean environment, creating a sustainable relationship between human activity and ecological cycles that sustained the empire for centuries. The gentle hum of administrative activity in the great centers of Cusco and other provincial capitals revealed one of humanity's means the orchestration of resource distribution across a vast empire without the familiar mechanisms of markets, currency, or trade. In the quiet efficiency of these administrative complexes, we witness the Incas' profound reimagining of how human societies might organize the flow of goods and services, replacing the competitive dynamics of market exchange with a carefully calibrated system of redistribution that prioritized collective welfare over individual accumulation. The state redistribution system that emerged from centuries of Andean tradition represented a fundamental departure from the economic assumptions that govern most ancient civilizations. Where other empires relied on taxation, precious metals, or agricultural surplus, the Inca developed an intricate network of storage, assessment, and allocation that functioned more like a vast household than a commercial enterprise. The principle underlying the system was elegantly simple yet profound in its implications. Resources would flow not to those with the greatest purchasing power, but to those with the greatest need, as determined by careful administrative assessment and community consultation. This redistribution network manifested most visibly in the empire's extensive storage infrastructure, a system so comprehensive that Spanish chroniclers marveled at its scale and efficiency. The QOLLQs, or state storage facilities, dotted the landscape like quiet monuments to collective foresight. These structures, built with the same precision as the empire's temples and palaces, were designed to preserve the fruits of communal labor across seasons and years. In the high-altitude storage complexes, freeze-dried potatoes could remain edible for decades, while carefully ventilated chambers and warmer zones preserved maize, quinoa, and other staples. The site of these facilities, gradually filling during harvest seasons and methodically emptied during times of need, embodied the empire's commitment to ensuring that no community would face scarcity while others enjoyed abundance. The administrators who managed this system, known as QUIPUC-AMAOCS, developed sophisticated methods for tracking both resources and needs across the empire's diverse regions. Using their intricate QUIPU recording devices, they maintained detailed inventories of stored goods, population levels, and seasonal requirements. These officials, trained from childhood in the complex art of knot-based record-keeping, could assess the needs of a mountain community struggling with crop failure and coordinate the delivery of stored resources from more fortunate regions. The quiet competence of these administrators, moving through storage facilities with the measured pace of those who understood their profound responsibility, represented one of history's most effective examples of planned resource allocation. The integration of local production with imperial distribution created a system of remarkable resilience and equity. Communities continued to produce according to their traditional specializations and environmental advantages, but the fruits of their labor entered a broader network of sharing that transcended local boundaries. A community in the high altitudes might focus on potato cultivation and llama herding, while their counterparts in warmer valleys specialized in maize and cotton production. Through the redistribution system, both communities would have access to the full range of necessities, with surplus from one region compensating for shortages in another. This approach to resource management reflected a fundamentally different understanding of scarcity and abundance than that which dominated market-based economies. Rather than viewing scarcity as a permanent condition requiring competitive allocation, the Inca system treated it as a temporary imbalance that could be corrected through careful planning and mutual support. The empire's storage facilities served not merely as warehouses, but as insurance against the uncertainties of agricultural life, creating a buffer that allowed communities to weather poor harvests without facing genuine hardship. The social implications of this redistribution system extended far beyond mere economic efficiency. By ensuring that basic needs were met through collective provision rather than individual purchase, the system created a foundation of security that allowed communities to focus on cultural and spiritual development rather than survival concerns. The quiet confidence that characterized Inca society, noted by many Spanish observers, reflected this underlying security. People could pursue their crafts, participate in religious ceremonies, and contribute to community projects without the constant anxiety about obtaining life's necessities that marked many other ancient societies. The administrative challenges of managing such a system across the empire's vast distances and diverse environments required innovations in communication and coordination that impressed even the empire's conquerors. The Chazki messenger system, with its relay stations positioned at regular intervals along the empire's roads, enabled rapid communication between storage facilities and administrative centers. When a community reported unusual needs or when seasonal conditions threatened local harvests, this information could travel hundreds of miles in a matter of days, allowing for timely redistribution of resources. The peaceful rhythm of this redistribution system, with its seasonal cycles of assessment, allocation, and delivery, created a sense of predictability and security that permeated Inca society. Communities knew that their contributions to the collective labor system would be balanced by access to the empire's shared resources, creating a relationship of mutual obligation that strengthened social cohesion while ensuring material welfare. This quiet confidence in the system's reliability represented one of the Inca Empire's greatest achievements, the creation of economic security through cooperation rather than competition. The morning mist clung to the terraced mountainsides as communities throughout the Inca Empire awakened to a social order that had evolved over centuries, where one's position in the great hierarchy of human cooperation determined not just privilege, but the very nature of one's contribution to the collective well-being. In this carefully orchestrated society, social hierarchy and labor obligations intertwined, like the threads of the finest come-by cloth, creating a system where status brought responsibility as much as privilege, and where even the highest nobles understood their position as fundamentally rooted in service to the empire's greater harmony. The Inca conception of social hierarchy differed profoundly from European models that would later encounter it. Rather than viewing nobility as exemption from labor, The ambient Redistribution understood elevated status as carrying heavier obligations to organize, coordinate, and ensure the success of collective endeavors. The Saper Inca himself, though revered as divine, was understood to bear the ultimate responsibility for the empire's agricultural cycles, the proper distribution of resources, and the spiritual well-being of all his subjects. This sacred burden filtered down through every level of society, creating a hierarchy of responsibility rather than mere privilege. At the apex of this carefully structured society stood the Royal LLU, the extended family groups of the Inca ruler, whose members served as provincial governors, military commanders, and high priests. These nobles, distinguished by their elaborate feathered headdresses and finely woven garments, bore the responsibility of translating imperial policy into local action. Their palaces, though magnificent, served as administrative centers where the complex calculations of seasonal labor needs, resource distribution, and ritual obligations were continuously refined and coordinated. The Curaças, traditional local leaders who had been incorporated into the Inca administrative system, occupied a particularly fascinating position within this hierarchy. These hereditary chiefs maintained their authority over local communities while serving as intermediaries between imperial demands and local capabilities. Their role required an intimate understanding of both traditional reciprocal obligations and the newer imperial systems of mighty labor organization. In the quiet hours before dawn, these leaders could be found consulting their Quipu records, calculating how many workers could be spared for imperial projects without compromising local agricultural needs. The skilled artisans occupied a unique position within this social structure, their specialized knowledge granting them privileges that transcended simple hierarchical rankings. Master stone workers, textile artists, and metal workers enjoyed imperial protection and provision. Their workshops supplied with the finest materials and their products reserved for the most sacred and important imperial uses. These craftsmen, though technically commoners, possessed knowledge that made them indispensable to the empire's cultural and spiritual life, their skills passed down through generations of careful apprenticeship. The vast majority of the empire's population consisted of the Hatunrane, the common people whose agricultural labor formed the foundation of imperial prosperity. Yet even within this group, subtle distinctions existed based on specialized knowledge, agricultural expertise, and community leadership roles. Skilled farmers who understood the complex requirements of terrace irrigation, herders who could manage the empire's vast llama and alpaca flocks, and specialists in particular crops or techniques all enjoyed enhanced status within their communities. The mitre system itself created temporary hierarchies based on the nature of one's labor contribution. Workers assigned to prestigious projects like road construction or imperial building efforts gained social recognition that extended beyond their period of service. Veterans of major imperial construction projects carried this honor throughout their lives, their expertise sought after for local building needs, and their opinions valued in community decisions about infrastructure and development. Women's roles within this hierarchical system reflected the Andean principle of complementation, where male and female contributions were understood as equally essential but distinctly different. The ACL law, chosen women who served in imperial religious centers, represented the pinnacle of female social achievement, their weaving skills and ritual knowledge making them essential to the empire's spiritual life. Local female leaders, the Mama Curaças, wielded significant authority over women's labor organization and the complex textile production that clothed the empire. The system's genius lay in its recognition that social mobility, though limited, remained possible through exceptional service to the community. Outstanding performance and mitre obligations, exceptional skill in craft production, or demonstrated leadership ability could elevate individuals within their social sphere. Military service, particularly in the empire's expansion phases, provided another avenue for advancement. with successful warriors granted land and elevated status within newly conquered territories. Regional variations in social hierarchy reflected the empire's remarkable ability to integrate diverse cultural traditions while maintaining imperial unity. Highland communities maintained their traditional emphasis on agricultural leadership and terracing expertise, while coastal populations preserved their maritime and fishing hierarchies. Desert regions developed their own systems of water management leadership, with those who understood irrigation techniques holding positions of particular respect and authority. The peaceful rhythm of daily life within this hierarchical system created a sense of predictable order that modern observers often find remarkably stable. Morning gatherings in village squares, where work assignments were discussed and community needs assessed, followed patterns that had evolved over generations. The sight of nobles consulting with community elders, their distinctive clothing marking their status, while their attention to local concerns demonstrated their responsibilities, created a visual representation of social order that emphasized service over domination. This intricate social architecture, with its careful balance of privilege and obligation, created the human framework within which the empire's labor-based economy could function across vast distances and diverse populations, each person understanding their role in the great collective enterprise of Andean civilization. In the quiet workshops scattered throughout the Inca Empire, master craftsmen awakened each morning to the gentle sound of apprentices preparing their tools, the soft scraping of stone against metal creating a peaceful rhythm that would guide the day's work. These specialized communities represented one of the most sophisticated aspects of the empire's moneyless economy, where skilled labor flowed through networks of reciprocal obligation and mutual respect, creating objects of extraordinary beauty and precision without the driving force of monetary profit. The development of craft specialization within the Inca system emerged from ancient Andean traditions, where communities had long recognized that certain individuals possessed exceptional abilities in working with stone, metal, textiles, or wood. Rather than allowing these talents to compete in marketplace competition, the Inca administration carefully integrated skilled workers into the broader Mita system, creating a framework where excellence served the collective good, while ensuring that craftsmen received the support and resources necessary for their specialized work. In the highland communities where master stonemasons practiced their ancient art, the morning light would reveal workshops where techniques passed down through generations were being refined and perfected. These craftsmen, known as specialists in their communities, held a unique position within the social hierarchy, their skills earning them respect and certain privileges, while their work remained fundamentally oriented toward community service rather than personal enrichment. The peaceful concentration required for their detailed work created spaces of contemplative focus, where the rhythmic sound of tools against stone became a form of meditation. The integration of skilled labor with the imperial Mita system demonstrated the Inca genius for adapting traditional practices to serve broader organizational needs. Master craftsmen might fulfill their labor obligations by training apprentices, supervising major construction projects, or creating specialized objects for ceremonial use. This system ensured that skilled knowledge was continuously transmitted, while preventing the concentration of expertise in ways that might create economic inequality or social division. The workshops where textile specialists created the empire's finest cloth exemplified this integration of skill with social purpose. Here, master weavers worked with apprentices in quiet concentration, their hands moving in practiced rhythms as they created textiles of extraordinary complexity and beauty. The soft whisper of thread through looms and the gentle conversation between teachers and students created an atmosphere of peaceful productivity, where the creation of beauty served both spiritual and practical purposes. Quality control within this system operated through networks of peer recognition and community oversight rather than market mechanisms, Master craftsmen took pride in maintaining standards that reflected not only their personal skill, but their community's reputation. This created a culture of excellence where innovation and tradition balanced in careful harmony, each generation of craftsmen adding their own refinements while preserving the essential techniques that defined their craft. The training systems that developed within these specialized communities represented a sophisticated approach to knowledge transmission. Young apprentices learned not only technical skills but the social and spiritual dimensions of their craft, understanding their work as part of a larger web of reciprocal relationships that connected their community to the broader empire. This holistic approach to skill development created craftsmen who saw their work as service rather than mere production. In the metalworking communities of the empire, the quiet glow of forges created spaces where skilled workers transformed raw materials into objects of both practical utility and ceremonial significance. The rhythmic sound of hammers against metal provided a peaceful backdrop for work that required intense concentration and years of training to master. These specialists understood their role within the larger economic system, their skills contributing to the empire's ability to create and maintain the tools, weapons, and ceremonial objects that supported both daily life and imperial administration. The administrative coordination of skilled labor across the empire's vast territory required sophisticated systems for identifying talent, organizing training, and ensuring that specialized skills were available where needed. Local administrators worked closely with master craftsmen to assess community needs and coordinate the movement of skilled workers to major imperial projects. This created a network of professional relationships that spanned the empire, connecting craftsmen across vast distances through shared techniques and mutual recognition of excellence. The social status of skilled workers within the Inca system reflected the empire's recognition that specialized knowledge represented a form of wealth that served the collective good. While craftsmen remained integrated within their community's social structures, their skills earned them respect and certain privileges that acknowledged their contribution to the empire's material culture. This created incentives for excellence while preventing the emergence of a separate artisan class that might challenge social harmony. The peaceful satisfaction that characterized these specialized communities stemmed from the integration of skilled work with spiritual and social purpose. Craftsmen understood their abilities as gifts that served the collective good, their daily work contributing to the empire's ability to create beauty, maintain infrastructure, and support ceremonial life. This sense of purpose created a work environment where excellence emerged naturally from dedication to community service rather than individual advancement. Modern archaeological evidence reveals the extraordinary achievements of these craft networks, from the precisely fitted stone blocks of imperial construction to the intricate textiles that demonstrate technical mastery of the highest order. The quiet workshops where these achievements were created represented spaces where human skill and creativity served collective purposes, creating a legacy that continues to inspire contemporary understanding of how economic system can support both individual fulfillment and community welfare. In the high valleys and steep mountainsides of the Andes, where thin air carries the whisper of ancient winds, the Inca developed perhaps history's most sophisticated understanding of environmental harmony within economic systems. Their approach to resource management emerged not from abstract theory, but from countless generations of careful observation, where survival itself depended on reading the subtle signs of mountain ecology and responding with practices that could sustain communities across the vast vertical landscape of their empire. The Inca recognized that their territory encompassed not merely geographic diversity, but distinct ecological worlds, each with its own rhythm, its own gifts, and its own requirements for careful stewardship. From the coastal desert with its seasonal rivers to the high Puna grasslands, where llamas grazed among scattered settlements, each zone demanded specialized knowledge and adapted labor practices. The empire's economic genius lay in coordinating these diverse environments into a unified system where the abundance of one region could support the needs of another, while ensuring that no single area bore unsustainable demands. Consider the careful orchestration of agricultural zones that stretched vertically up the mountainsides like giant staircases reaching toward the sky. At the lowest elevations, communities cultivated maize in terraced fields, at cotton held precious water, their stone walls warming in the mountain sun to create microclimates that extended growing seasons. Higher up the slopes, where cooler temperatures and different soil conditions prevailed, farmers specialized in potatoes and quinoa, crops that thrived in the thinner air and shorter summers. At the highest reaches of cultivation, hardy tubers grew in small plots tended by families who understood the precise timing needed to work with the brief growing season. This vertical archipelago of production required labor systems that could respond to the specific needs of each ecological zone while maintaining the reciprocal relationships that bound the empire together. The mitre obligations were carefully calibrated to environmental realities, ensuring that communities contributed their labor when their own agricultural cycles permitted, and that the empire's projects supported rather and disrupted the delicate balance of mountain farming. Workers from lower elevations might fulfill their obligations during their off-season, traveling to higher zones to help with potato harvests or participating in the construction of new terraces that would expand cultivation into previously unusable slopes. The Inca understanding of sustainability emerged from this intimate knowledge of environmental limits and possibilities. Their agricultural practices built soil rather than depleting it. Their terracing systems prevented erosion while creating new growing space, and their crop rotation strategies maintained fertility across generations. Storage facilities were positioned to take advantage of natural preservation conditions, with some located in high, dry areas perfect for freeze-drying potatoes, while others used coastal desert conditions to store maize and beans. The empire's administrators developed sophisticated systems for tracking not just current harvests, but the long-term health of agricultural zones, ensuring that production demands remained within sustainable limits. Water management represented perhaps the most elegant example of Inca environmental integration. Their engineers created irrigation systems that worked with natural water cycles rather than against them, channeling seasonal floods into terraced fields and storage basins, then releasing water gradually throughout the growing season. These systems required constant maintenance and adjustment, providing year-round employment for specialized workers whose intimate knowledge of local hydrology made them essential to community survival. The labor invested in water management paid dividends across generations, as well-maintained systems continued to function long after their builders had passed away. The empire's approach to forest resources demonstrated similar long-term thinking. Rather than clearing mountainside forests for immediate agricultural use, Inca planners maintained woodland areas that provided essential materials for construction and fuel, while preventing soil erosion on steep slopes. Communities had specific rights and obligations regarding forest use, with traditional practices governing when and how trees could be harvested, ensuring that extraction remained within the forest's capacity for regeneration. Specialized workers understood which trees provided the best materials for different purposes, how to harvest bark for medicinal use without killing trees, and how to manage forest clearings to encourage the growth of useful plants. The integration of environmental knowledge with economic planning created systems that modern observers recognize as remarkably sophisticated approaches to sustainable development. Inca administrators tracked not just immediate production needs, but the long-term capacity of different regions to support various activities. They understood that overworking agricultural land would reduce future harvests, that excessive demands on any single community would disrupt the reciprocal relationships that held the empire together, and that environmental degradation in one area could affect the productivity of distant regions connected through trade and labor networks. This environmental wisdom found expression in the empire's most ambitious projects, where massive construction efforts were planned and executed with careful attention to ecological impact. The building of Machu Picchu, for instance, required not just enormous labor investment, but sophisticated understanding of mountain hydrology, soil stability, and local climate patterns. The site's agricultural terraces were designed to be productive while preventing erosion. Its water management systems channeled mountain springs without disrupting natural drainage patterns, and its construction techniques used local materials in ways that minimized environmental impact, while creating structures that would endure for centuries. The quiet wisdom of these environmental practices continues to resonate in modern Andean communities, where traditional knowledge systems maintain many of the insights that made Inca resource management so successful. Contemporary indigenous farmers still practice crop rotation systems derived from ancient techniques, still maintain terraced fields built by their ancestors, and still organize community labor around environmental cycles that have governed mountain agriculture for millennia. In these continuing practices, we glimpse the enduring power of economic systems that recognize human communities as part of larger ecological relationships, where prosperity depends not on extracting maximum short-term value, but on maintaining the delicate balance that allows both human societies and natural systems to flourish across generations. As we draw our contemplative journey through the Inca Empire's remarkable moneyless economy to its peaceful close, we find ourselves surrounded by the profound wisdom of a civilization that discovered something extraordinary: that human cooperation, rather than material accumulation, could serve as the foundation for economic life. The gentle rhythms of Ainai and Mita continue to echo across the centuries, reminding us that the most enduring wealth lies not in what we possess, but in what we share. Picture, if you will, the eternal Andean landscape where these economic innovations first took root. The terraced mountainsides still catch the morning light, much as they did centuries ago, their stone walls bearing witness to the quiet revolution of collective labor. In these peaceful moments before dawn, we can almost hear the soft murmur of communities awakening not to the harsh demands of individual competition, but to the gentle call of mutual support and shared purpose. The Inca understanding that work itself could be sacred transforms our modern relationship with labor, inviting us to consider how the rhythms of production might align with the deeper rhythms of human community. Their sophisticated system of seasonal coordination, where agricultural cycles determine the empire's economic heartbeat, speaks to a profound harmony between human activity and natural cycles that our contemporary world continues to seek. As we reflect on their remarkable achievement of distributing resources without markets, we glimpse the possibility of economic systems based on need rather than purchasing power, on cooperation rather than competition. The quiet efficiency of their storage houses, filled through collective effort and distributed according to community requirements, offers a vision of abundance achieved through shared labor rather than individual accumulation. The gentle persistence of these principles in modern Andean communities reminds us that the deepest economic truth transcends historical periods. In contemporary villages where neighbors still gather for collective work projects, where the ancient spirit of Ainai continues to guide community life, we witness the enduring power of reciprocal relationships to create both material prosperity and social harmony. Let your mind rest now in the peaceful knowledge that human beings have always possessed the capacity for economic cooperation, that the competitive struggles of modern life represent just one possible approach to organizing society's productive activities. The Inca Empire's moneyless economy stands as a testament to our species' fundamental capacity for mutual support and shared prosperity. As you settle into deeper relaxation, imagine yourself walking along one of those ancient mountain paths where mighty workers once traveled, their footsteps creating the roads that connected communities across vast distances. Feel the solid stones beneath your feet, placed there by hands guided, not by individual profit, but by collective purpose. The mountain air is crisp and clean, carrying the scent of growing crops and the distant sound of voices raised in working songs. The rhythm of your breathing aligns now with the eternal rhythm of the seasons, with the gentle pulse of communities awakening to shared labor, with the quiet satisfaction of work performed for the benefit of all. Your body grows heavier with each breath, sinking into the peaceful knowledge that cooperation, not competition, represents humanity's deepest economic instinct. Rest now in the profound tranquility of this ancient wisdom, knowing that the mountains themselves continue their patient watch over communities where the spirit of Anai still guides daily life. The terraced fields stretch endlessly before your mind's eye, their geometric patterns creating a visual meditation on the beauty of collective human effort. Sleep comes gently, like the gradual filling of storage houses with the fruits of shared labor, like the quiet satisfaction of communities where everyone's needs are met through the simple miracle of working together.